Welcome back, geographers. Southwest Asia's physical features. Mountains and plateaus dominate the landscape of Southwest Asia. They have been created over the past 100 million years by collisions between four tectonic plates. This has also caused earthquakes in the region. The region's highest mountains are the Hindu Kush Range. It stretches across much of Afghanistan and along that country's border with Pakistan in South Asia. Mountain ranges form natural barriers to travel and trade. As a result, mountain passes are important in this area. One of the most famous is the Khyber Pass, between Afghanistan and Pakistan. It has served as a route for trade and invading armies for thousands of years. Plateaus cover much of Iran. Mountains in western Iran merge with those of eastern Turkey. The Anatolian Plateau spreads across central and western Turkey. The Arabian Peninsula is a single, vast plateau. Long mountain ranges that lie parallel to the peninsula's coasts are actually the deeply eroded edges of the plateau. Southwest Asia takes its physical shape mainly from the bodies of water that surround it. Turkey has coasts on the Mediterranean and Black Seas. Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Israel have coasts on the Mediterranean Sea. Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Yemen border the Red Sea. The Red Sea has been one of the world's busiest waterways since the opening of Egypt's Suez Canal in 1869. In the southeastern Arabian Peninsula, Yemen and Oman have coasts on a part of the Indian Ocean called the Arabian Sea. In the northeast, the Arabian Peninsula is shaped by the Persian Gulf. It is connected to the ocean by a strategic waterway called the Strait of Hormuz. The Persian Gulf has become very important in world affairs since the middle of the 1900s. 8 of the region's 15 countries border the Persian Gulf. In the north, Iran also borders the landlocked Caspian Sea. The Dead Sea, between Israel and Jordan, is also landlocked. At 1,300 feet, 395 meters, below sea level, it is the world's lowest body of water. Its shore represents the world's lowest land elevation. Southwest Asia's two longest and most important rivers are the Tigris and the Euphrates. They are often considered part of the same river system. They begin in the mountains of eastern Turkey. In their lower courses, they flow parallel to each other through an alluvial plain. This is a plain created by sediment deposited during floods. The plain covers most of Iraq as well as eastern Syria and southeastern Turkey. This area has been known since ancient times as Mesopotamia, which is Greek for land between the rivers. Deserts spread across much of Southwest Asia. The Arabian Desert covers nearly the entire Arabian Peninsula. It is the largest desert in the region, and includes many landscapes, including sand seas, which are unbroken expanses of sand. The largest sand sea in the world is the Rub' al-Khali, or Empty Quarter, in the southern part of the peninsula. The climate is so dry that there are no permanent human settlements. In some areas, nomadic people known as the Bedouin keep herds of camels, horses, and sheep. There are oases in the Arabian Desert. These are areas where underground water allows plants to grow. Southwest Asia's climates. Most of Southwest Asia has an arid, or very dry, climate. Deserts cover nearly the entire Arabian Peninsula as well as large parts of Iran. Temperatures can rise to 129 degrees Fahrenheit, 54 degrees Celsius. When rains come, torrents of water race through wadis, or streambeds that are dry much of the year. Seeds sprout within hours, turning the plains green. Areas along the edges of the dry zones are semi-arid, or somewhat dry. These are found in highlands and mountain ranges. Along the region's Mediterranean and Aegean coasts and across much of western Turkey, the climate is Mediterranean. There are mild temperatures and moderate rainfall in the winter. Summers are warm and dry. The mountains of eastern Turkey, western Iran, and central Afghanistan have continental climates. Temperatures vary greatly between summer and winter. The mountains of the Hindu Kush have a highland climate. Glaciers are found among their high peaks. Natural resources. Scarcity of water has shaped Southwest Asia's human history and settlement patterns. The region's most important resources are oil and natural gas. The world's largest known deposits of petroleum are in Southwest Asia. Most of them are concentrated around and under the Persian Gulf. 5 countries that border the Gulf, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, and United Arab Emirates, hold more than half the world's known oil. These countries export most of their oil to industrialized countries. Petroleum revenues have brought tremendous wealth to a few people in the exporting countries. Only in a few areas, however, has the wealth been used to improve the lives of the people or to bring about modernization. The region boasts a great variety of mineral resources. Turkey and Iran have significant deposits of coal. Phosphates, which are used in fertilizers, are mined in Iraq, Israel, and Syria. Between 2006 and 2010, American geologists in Afghanistan discovered enormous deposits of many minerals. Among them were iron, copper, gold, cobalt, lithium, and rare earth elements used to make electronic devices. Early Southwest Asia. Throughout most of history, people have lived as hunter-gatherers. In small groups, they hunted wild animals and searched for wild fruits, nuts, and vegetables. About 10,000 years ago, people began practicing agriculture, raising animals and growing crops. One of the first places this agricultural revolution took place was in Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia is the fertile plain between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers in what is now Iraq. With agriculture came a more settled life. Villages began to appear. Because food was plentiful, some villages were freed up from farming and could undertake other work, such as making tools, weaving baskets, or keeping records. Over time, some villages grew into large, powerful cities with governments and military forces. These cities were the world's first civilizations. Over thousands of years, Mesopotamian societies such as the Sumerians and the Babylonians invented sophisticated irrigation and farming methods. They built impressive works of architecture, including huge temple towers. They made advances in mathematics, astronomy, government, and law. They also created a writing system and produced great works of literature. Their achievements helped shape later civilizations in Greece, Rome, and Western Europe. Southwest Asia is also a cradle of religion. 3 of the world's major religions originated there. In ancient times, most people worshipped many gods. This practice is known as polytheism. In the 2nd millennium BC, a new religion arose. A millennium is a period of 1,000 years. This new religion was based on monotheism, the belief in just one God. It developed among a people called the Israelites. The religion came to be known as Judaism and its followers as Jews. Jews believe that God called Abraham and the Israelites to leave Mesopotamia and found a new nation in a land between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. Today, this area is shared by Israel, the Palestinian territories, and Lebanon. In the 1st century AD, Christianity was born in this area. It was based on Jewish traditions preached by Jesus of Nazareth. Christianity spread rapidly throughout the Mediterranean world and into Europe. It also spread across Southwest Asia. Then, in the AD 600s, the Prophet Muhammad founded Islam in Mecca, a desert city in what is now Saudi Arabia. Islam is the religion of Muslims. Many of the teachings of Islam are similar to those of Judaism and Christianity. For example, all 3 are monotheistic and consider Abraham to be God's first messenger who first taught this belief. Muhammad's religion was relatively simple and direct. It focused on the need to obey the will of Allah, the Arab word for God. It required followers to perform 5 duties, known as the pillars of Islam. These are: 1. Promising faith to God and accepting Muhammad as God's prophet. 2. Praying 5 times a day. 3. Fasting during the holy month of Ramadan. 4. Helping the poor. And 5. Making a journey to the holy city of Mecca in its first years. Islam attracted few converts. By the time of Muhammad's death in AD 632, it had spread across the Arabian Peninsula. Arab armies began spreading the religion through conquests. It was also spread by scholars, religious pilgrims, and Arab traders. By AD 800, Islam had spread across nearly all of Southwest Asia, including Persia, present-day Iran, and part of Turkey. It also extended into northernmost Africa and most of Spain and Portugal. It later expanded to northern and eastern Africa, Central Asia, and South and Southeast Asia. Many different influences contributed to a flowering of Islamic culture that lasted for centuries and continues to have an impact. During this period, great works of architecture were built, and centers of learning arose. Arab scholars made advances in math and science. This golden age was to have a lasting impact. During the 1100s and 1200s, Crusaders from Western Europe set up Christian states along Southwest Asia's Mediterranean coast. The Muslims gradually regained control of these territories. In other areas, however, Muslim political and military power weakened. In the 1200s, Persia and Mesopotamia became part of a vast Mongol empire that stretched across much of Eurasia. The Ottomans, a group of Muslim tribes, began to build an empire on the Anatolian Peninsula in the early 1200s. By the mid-1300s, the Ottoman Empire included much of Southwest Asia and parts of southeastern Europe and northern Africa. It became one of the world's most powerful states. Modern Southwest Asia. The Ottoman Empire reached the peak of its power in the 1500s, then began to decline. In the 1800s and early 1900s, it lost African and European territories through wars, treaties, and revolutions. After fighting alongside the losing Central Powers in World War I, the empire was finally dissolved. After World War I, the modern country of Turkey was founded on the Anatolian Peninsula. In the peace settlement that ended the war, Britain and France gained control of the Ottoman Empire's former territories under a mandate system. The people of these territories were to be prepared for independence. The new political boundaries did not respect ethnic, religious, political, or historical divisions. These boundaries would become very important when the territories became independent countries. Resentment toward the European colonial powers grew into strong nationalist movements among the peoples of the region. Between 1930 and 1971, one country after another won independence. One of the British mandates was the territory called Palestine. It roughly corresponded to Israel, the area inhabited by the Jewish people in ancient times. Most of the people living in Palestine were Muslim Arabs. At the same time, growing numbers of Jewish immigrants had been arriving from Europe and other parts of the world. As the Jewish population grew, tensions increased between them and the Palestinian Arabs. Jewish nationalists wanted to re-establish their historic homeland in Palestine. This movement gained support as a result of the Holocaust. The Holocaust was the systematic murder of 6 million European Jews by Nazi Germany during World War II. Hundreds of thousands of Jews who survived became refugees, searching for a place to live. In 1947, the United Nations voted to divide the territory into two states, one Arab and one Jewish. The Arabs did not want to give up land, and rejected the proposal. On its Independence Day in 1948, the new Jewish state of Israel was invaded by armies from neighboring Arab countries. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinian Arabs became refugees. That war ended with a truce in 1948. However, other major Arab-Israeli wars were fought in the next 3 decades. During a brief 1967 war, Israel captured territory in neighboring countries. Opposition by Palestinian Arabs and neighboring countries led to further conflict. Israel withdrew from the Sinai Peninsula in 1982 and from the Gaza Strip in 2005. It continues to control the West Bank and East Jerusalem. There have been many unsuccessful attempts to find a peaceful solution to the Arab-Israeli conflict. Since World War II, ethnic, religious, and political differences have caused many conflicts. Islamists consider Islam to be a political system as well as a religion. Islamist movements and the desire to control large oil fields have contributed to many of the conflicts. Lebanon, Afghanistan, and Yemen have been torn apart by civil wars. The Kurds are a people in eastern Turkey, northern Iraq, and western Iran. They have fought to gain their own country. A revolution in Iran in the late 1970s overthrew the monarchy and created an Islamic republic. Iraq invaded Iran in 1980, resulting in an 8-year war. A decade later, Iraq annexed the oil-rich neighboring country of Kuwait. A coalition led by the United States liberated Kuwait in the Persian Gulf War. In response to terrorist attacks on U.S. soil that took place on September 11, 2011, the United States invaded Afghanistan. They removed the country's Islamist ruling group, the Taliban, from power. The Second Persian Gulf War began 2 years later, when U.S. and British forces invaded Iraq and overthrew Iraq's leader, Saddam Hussein. He had been accused of supporting terrorism and possessing weapons of mass destruction, although this was later proved to be untrue. In 2010 and 2011, a popular uprising in Tunisia inspired democratic movements in Yemen, Bahrain, and Syria. However, militant Islamic political movements limit growth of democracy and civil rights in the region. People and places. Southwest Asia is about 3/4 the size of the United States but is home to around 330 million people. Iran and Turkey, the most populous countries, each have about 80 million people. Some oil-rich countries around the Persian Gulf are experiencing population booms as their fast-growing economies are attracting foreign workers. Many countries are highly urbanized. In others, the majority of people live in rural areas. People below the age of 15 make up a large part of the population here. Population is not evenly distributed. The region's northern and western parts and southern tip have the highest densities. Many of these areas have relatively higher rainfall. Areas with dry or somewhat dry climates are more sparsely populated. One exception is Mesopotamia in Iraq, where the rivers provide abundant water for irrigating crops. Southwest Asia has thriving metropolises that are home to millions. It also has ancient rural villages that seem untouched by the passing of time. In some desert areas, nomadic people known as Bedouins live in tents and herd camels, goats, and cattle. People and cultures. Arabs are the largest ethnic group in Southwest Asia. In Saudi Arabia, Syria, and Jordan, more than 90% of the people are Arab. The two most populous countries have only small Arab populations. In Turkey, Turks form the majority. In Iran, which was formerly known as Persia, most people are Persian. Jews make up 3/4 of the population in Israel. The Kurds have no country of their own, but make up significant minorities in Turkey, Iran, and Iraq. The region where they live is traditionally known as Kurdistan. Arabic is the most widespread language in Southwest Asia. Other important tongues include Turkish and Farsi, the language of Persians. Hebrew is the official language of Israel. Kurds speak Kurdish. Some of the region's countries have complex ethnic and linguistic makeups. Many people identify with their ethnic group more strongly than with the country in which they live. Afghanistan, for example, has many ethnic groups. People in Afghanistan identify themselves as Pashtun or Hazari rather than Afghani. Even in countries that are mostly Arab, people identify with tribes that are based on family relationships. Tribal identity is often stronger than national identity. Islam remains the region's dominant religion. It unites people of different ethnicities and languages. It has two main branches, Sunni and Shia. Most of Southwest Asia's Muslims are Sunnis. In Iran, however, Shias outnumber Sunnis 9-1. Judaism is practiced by 3/4 of the people in Israel. Christians make up about 40% of the population in Lebanon and 10% in Syria. Religion and art have always been closely tied in the region. Some of its most magnificent works of architecture are religious structures. Sacred texts such as the Hebrew and Christian Bible and the Muslim Quran are also works of literature. There are also other rich artistic traditions, including calligraphy, mosaics, weaving, storytelling, and poetry. Hand-woven Persian carpets have been famous for centuries. So has the collection of folktales known as the 1001 Nights. Daily life varies greatly across the region. Throughout history, most people practice traditional livelihoods such as farming, raising livestock, or fishing. In recent times, people have gone to work in petroleum production, food processing, auto manufacturing, textiles, and construction. Religion plays a major role in the daily lives of many people in Southwest Asia. Islam is a way of life. There are rules governing diet, hygiene, relationships, business, law, and more. To Muslims, families are the foundation of a healthy society. Maintaining family ties is an important duty. Ramadan, the 9th month of the Muslim calendar, is a holy month of fasting. Muslims refrain from eating and drinking between dawn and dusk. After ending their fast with prayer each evening, people enjoy festive meals. The end of Ramadan is marked by a 3-day festival called Eid al-Fitr. Issues. The discovery in the mid-1900s of vast petroleum deposits in Southwest Asia had a strong impact on the region. Exports of petroleum products have brought great wealth to countries around the Persian Gulf. With this wealth came development in some countries. Petroleum has also brought new challenges. Some Muslims believe that the increased exposure to Western ways is corrupting the region's people. There is a growing gap between rich and poor countries. The struggle to control oil has led to tension and wars. It has also brought foreign intervention. The years 2010 and 2011 marked the beginning of the Arab Spring. This was a wave of pro-democracy protests in North Africa and Southwest Asia. By the end of the year, leaders in Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, and Yemen were overthrown. Syria fell into upheaval. The scarcity of freshwater has plagued the region throughout history. Dramatic population growth has greatly increased demand, making the situation more dire. This has increased the importance of hydropolitics, or politics related to water usage and access. Salt can be removed from the seawater, but this process is expensive and therefore impractical. With no rivers that flow year-round, Saudi Arabia has tapped into fossil water. This is water that fell thousands of years ago as rain and is now trapped deep underground. This is not a renewable source, however. The region's greatest source of freshwater is the Tigris-Euphrates river system. However, a dam building project in Turkey threatens to reduce river flow to Syria and Iraq.